There was a time when sleep wasn't even something you thought about. You didn't analyze it. You didn't track it. You didn't wonder how many hours you'd get. And you didn't lie in bed trying to figure out why it wasn't happening. You just got tired, and eventually, sleep showed up. So what changed? Because something clearly did. You didn't suddenly forget how to sleep. Your body didn't lose the ability. And you didn't wake up one morning with this broken sleep switch. But yet, somehow, something that once felt automatic now feels complicated, maybe even impossible. So tonight, I want to explore a question that almost nobody asks in the right way. Not, how do I make myself sleep? But, what changed between then and now? Because the answer may not be what you think. So most people think insomnia starts at bedtime, but for so many people, it started long before that. Maybe life became more stressful. Maybe you went through a health scare, a breakup, a loss, or just a season when you felt extremely overwhelmed. Or maybe nothing dramatic even happened. Maybe it was just months or years even of carrying more responsibility than your nervous system was used to carrying. And then one night, you couldn't sleep. Then another. Then another. And what started as just a temporary experience slowly became something you started paying attention to. And then that's where things start to change in a really big way. Not because you couldn't sleep, but because you started watching sleep, monitoring it, evaluating it, and then wondering about it, and trying to control it. Think about riding a bike. Most people can ride one without even thinking about it. But imagine if every second you started analyzing, how am I balancing? Am I steering correctly? What if I fall? What are my legs even doing? And then all of a sudden, something natural starts feeling awkward. Sleep is a lot like that. The more important it starts to feel, the harder it becomes to just leave it alone. And after enough difficult nights, sleep stops being something that just happens. And it starts to become something you're trying to make happen, like a project, a problem that you have to figure out. and then this nightly performance. And unfortunately, the brain tends to become more alert around all these things it believes are important, especially things it thinks require monitoring. And this is the part that really surprised me when I was struggling. The thing that changed wasn't my ability to sleep. It was my relationship with sleep. Years ago, sleep was in the background. Now, it was in the spotlight. Years ago, I trusted it. Now, I questioned it. Years ago, I assumed it would happen eventually. Now, I needed reassurance that it would. And that's a very different relationship. And once sleep becomes something you are watching closely, your brain begins watching too. Not because it's trying to torture you. I know it might feel like that. But it's actually trying to help you. If something feels important, the brain pays attention. That's just what brains do. And the unique thing about insomnia is that eventually the struggle itself becomes familiar, not comfortable, not enjoyable, but familiar. And then your brain learns a pattern over time. Bed equals monitoring. Bed equals checking. Bed equals trying. And bed equals figuring this out. Because the brain loves patterns, and it continues running them. Not because they're working, but because they're known. And this is one reason people can feel absolutely exhausted, but still find themselves wide awake. And it can be confusing because the body may be tired, but the mind, it's still participating in this old pattern, one that it learned over time. So, what changed? Maybe less than you think. Maybe you didn't lose your ability to sleep. Maybe sleep never left. And maybe what has changed is the amount of attention, pressure, fear, and importance that slowly gathered around it. And if that's true, then the solution may not be forcing sleep harder. It may not be finding that perfect magic supplement, the perfect routine or sleep hack. It may start with something so much simpler. learning to rebuild trust. Trust in your body. Trust in the process. And trust that sleep doesn't need to be chased quite as aggressively as you've been taught. Because before all of this started, you already knew how to sleep. You weren't even thinking about it. You weren't managing it. You just allowed it. So perhaps there's nothing new you need to learn. Maybe it's just something old you need to remember.